Allen Lund Company has new offices in Ogden, Utah and Indianapolis, Indiana. Check allenlund.com to reach them.
OOIDA, representing America's truckers since 1973, presents Landline Now with your host, Mark Reddick.
If you're an owner-operator, keeping on top of your taxes and bookkeeping isn't just a good idea, it's a necessity. That's why Barry Fowler's presentation at OOIDA's Truck to Success seminar is so popular. The president of Taxation Solutions joins us to preview what he'll say. The percentage of truckers affected by predatory towing is actually small, but if you're one of those truckers, a single instance can spell the end of your business. I'll discuss that and more with Landline Magazine senior editor Mark Schremer. And finally, the November election will be a busy one in many ways, but outside of the big contests, several cities will vote on billions in transportation funding. Scott Thompson talks with our state legislative expert, Keith Goebel. But first, the news with Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Mark. Close to 200,000 CDLs could be revoked in a couple months' time. Back in 2021, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration published a final rule that would require state driver licensing agencies to remove commercial learner's permit or CDL privileges from people who fall into the prohibited status due to one or more drug and alcohol program violations. Once downgraded, CMV privileges can only be reinstated after the driver complies with return-to-duty requirements. The deadline for states to enforce that regulation is November 18th. According to a July report from FMCSA, more than 175,000 CLP and CDL holders currently have a prohibited status. Of that total, more than 133,000 have not started the return-to-duty process. Taylor Ritchie with CMCI, OOIDA's Drug and Alcohol Consortium, say drivers who currently carry a prohibited status will want to complete the return-to-duty process before the November 18th compliance date. If they don't, those drivers could be subject to fines or other requirements prior to having their commercial driving privileges reinstated. The spot market was a mixed bag last week. CVSA's Brake Safety Week and the lead-up to the Labor Day holiday weekend factored into load-to-truck ratios. That's according to Robert Rouse of DAT.
So load post volumes bounced back last week, mainly around end of month, end of quarter, Labor Day, and Brake Check Week. All of those events kind of just lifted the entire market for a week. For dry vans, that resulted in 12% higher volumes. Compared to last year, volumes are about 17% lower and almost identical to back in 2017. National capacity levels were down last week as carriers took time off for that Brake Check Week. And that resulted in 9% decrease in equipment post, specifically for dry vans. That's 3 percentage points higher than an 8-year average for that event. The net result was a 23% increase in dry van loaded truck ratio, up to 406. That's 11% above the long-term loaded truck average for this time of year. So all in all, not a bad week in the market last week.
As for spot rates, they were up slightly for both van and reefer last week at $203 and $244 respectively with fuel. Rates for flatbed stayed flat. We'll have much more on the market conditions out there with Robert Rouse of DAT tomorrow on our program, when he'll look ahead to the months to come as we get closer to the holiday season. A bill with implications for truck drivers that was introduced more than a year ago continues to gain support. Ahead of the Labor Day holiday weekend, 6 members of the U.S. House added their support to H.R. 4963, otherwise known as the Tax Fairness for Workers Act. That brings the total number of co-sponsors to 198. For truck drivers, the bipartisan bill would return the right of company truck drivers to utilize a per diem tax deduction. The Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association is on the list of supporters. In support of a previous version of the bill, OOIDA President Todd Spencer wrote that the elimination of the per diem for company drivers has, quote, unfortunately increased the tax exposure for many hardworking Americans who make their living behind the wheel of a truck, end quote. A Senate version of the bill introduced by Senator Bob Casey of Pennsylvania has 40 co-sponsors as of right now. You can learn more about the Tax Fairness for Workers Act with details for contacting your lawmaker at fightingfortruckers.com. The California DMV has released its plan for dealing with driverless trucks. It includes allowing autonomous commercial vehicles on roads where the posted speed limit is 50 miles an hour or higher and on frontage access roads. The California DMV said this would allow for long-haul deliveries along hub-to-hub routes and in less complex operational areas. Certain commercial vehicle operations would be prohibited from using autonomous trucks, such as those hauling hazardous materials or oversized loads. The plan is not finalized yet, though. The state DMV plans to get input on the plans before moving ahead. It's a change, of course, for the California DMV, which had previously banned driverless trucks over 10,000 pounds. It could all be a moot point, though, if a bill sitting on Governor Gavin Newsom's desk is signed into law. The bill would ban driverless semis from California roadways altogether. However, the governor vetoed an almost identical bill last year. Heavy trucks are no longer allowed on a stretch of roadway near the New Jersey border in Morrisville, Pennsylvania. Last week, state officials announced that trucks weighing more than 10 tons are banned from South Pennsylvania Avenue between Philadelphia Avenue and Tyburn Road. It's a popular route for truckers as it's a direct route to an industrial area that includes the Keystone Trade Center. Officials say the ban was put in place following complaints about truck traffic from residents in the area. Although the southern half of South Pennsylvania Avenue goes through an industrial area, the northern half is mostly residential. Enforcement of the truck ban has not begun yet. That'll change in a few months once PennDOT installs signs informing truckers of the restriction. Michigan is the latest state to offer traffic alerts to truckers through electronic logging devices. The Michigan State Police Commercial Vehicle Enforcement Division said officers can now send short messages, geo-targeted, to a specific area to ELDs. The message appears in large letters on a bright yellow background. Michigan State Police say they plan to use the tool before holidays or when there are particular hazards on roadways they would like professional drivers to be aware of. Several other states, including Arkansas, Georgia, and Texas, employ a similar system that works in the same way. An emergency affecting truck drivers, among others, is in effect through September 13th in Wyoming. Wildfires are the reason. They've burned more than 10,000 acres in the state so far. Among the problems created by the wildfires is a shortage of livestock feed. Under the state's executive order, companies that specialize in transporting livestock and livestock feed are granted relief from hours of service requirements and size and weight limits. Oregon and Washington state also have wildfire emergencies currently in place. Several drivers, including a couple truckers, got cited in Canada over the weekend for video recording a wreck as they drove past. It happened in the aftermath of a rollover crash Saturday on Highway 401 near Napanee in Ontario. Ontario Provincial Police say 18 drivers, including 2 truck drivers, were ticketed for using their phones while driving past the crash site. All were suspected of videoing the wreck. Each citation came with a $615 reminder to stay off their phones and focus on the road. And finally, a reminder about 2 surveys currently being conducted by the American Transportation Research Institute. The most recently released one is a Top Industry Issues Survey. This is the one where ATRI asked stakeholders to rank the top issues of concern for the trucking industry. The input will go into a report that ranks the issues by motor carrier and by professional drivers. It also includes best strategies for addressing each issue. That survey will stay open through September 27th. The results will be released on October 12th. Meanwhile, ATRI has another survey, this one dedicated to the growing cargo theft problem. ATRI's Research Advisory Committee voted earlier this year to prioritize research on the topic. While the FBI says up to $30 billion is lost to cargo theft each year through traditional cargo theft or even sophisticated impersonation schemes, ATRI says many industry stakeholders are hesitant to publicly provide cargo theft data. ATRI is trying to get a clearer picture of the problem out there. Both motor carriers and brokers have been invited to participate in the confidential and anonymous survey. If you'd like to chime in on either survey, head to truckingresearch.org. That's Landline Now News for today. I'm Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Scott. A quick reminder that you can contact your state and local lawmakers by using the website fightingfortruckers.com. Next, Scott Thompson gets a preview of the tax portion of Truck to Success from Barry Fowler of Taxation Solutions. I'll take a look at Landline Magazine's coverage of predatory towing with senior editor Mark Schremer, and we'll preview several local transportation issues on the fall ballot with our state legislative expert, Keith Goebel. We'll be right back. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
Capital Reman is your leading source for quality remanufactured engines and components. Capital Reman stands ready to serve all OOIDA members to help reduce costly engine repairs or replacement. Visit capitalreman.com today and use code OOIDA10 to save.
Penske is the trusted source for quality used trucks. Whether you search our website, call our sales staff, or bid at our online auction, you are sure to find the right used truck for your business. Visit PenskeUsedTrucks.com to view our inventory and learn more.
It's tested and proven. Burn 2.1% less fuel when you balance all wheel ends with Centromatic. Call 800-523-8473 to get the OOIDA discount.
Landline Now, welcome back. The OOIDA Foundation is hosting its Truck to Success seminar for 3 days starting on October 22nd. In the lead up to the event, we've been giving you quick previews of what you'll learn if you attend. Today, we cover a big one, bookkeeping and taxes, and for that, we turn to Barry Fowler. Barry is president of Taxation Solutions and also a presenter at Truck to Success, and he joins us on the line now. So, you cover a lot in your presentation. I know it's one of the more popular parts of the seminar itself because you do go over so much information that can help save people money. We're going to kind of dance around and go through all the issues here that you do cover. But first off, just kind of tell me about your presentation there at Truck to Success and all the things that you do try to cover over that time.
Truck to Success is one of my favorite seminars that we actually get to come up and put on because we get to meet all the truckers and talk to them and find out what their needs are and, what's going on in the industry just from them personally. But, when we come up there, we're talking about bookkeeping for owner-operators, what's specific for them in their business, as well as the taxes and how it applies to you being out there as an owner-operator, self-employed, and what you can do to reduce the taxes and reduce what you're going to pay taxes on. And we always talk about how to make expenses, pre-tax expenses versus after-tax, because if you're spending after-tax dollars, you're actually losing money and paying more to the government. And then we get to touch on lease versus purchase, which is really important when you're going out there and purchasing a truck and a trailer. Whether you lease it, whether you purchase it, what the differences are for you and from a tax standpoint. And then, I know we always preach on all the time, if you're out there leasing a truck or a trailer, is read the agreements before you sign them. I mean, it becomes really important. You'll hear us say that like multiple times. And then we also will touch on entity choice. Now, I'm not a lawyer or anything, so we don't give legal advice, but we'll talk about from a tax perspective, what your choice of entity will do for you tax-wise, how it possibly could save you money, how it impacts you on those taxes, and what forms you got to file and everything from there. So it gives us a great opportunity to give everybody that's planning for business a way to make sure they're getting their plan in place.
So light subject matter on all four of those. I mean, this is weighty stuff. It's important stuff too, and I kind of want to take each of those maybe one by one here as we talk here. Taxes. This is something that, as an individual, when you're filing your own taxes, can be pretty complicated, obviously, depending on what your situation is. When you're talking about taxes as an owner-operator, it gets even more complicated. And I don't want to scare people here, but I know you do talk about the federal tax code during your presentation. I know you go over just how complicated it is, but it's important that people understand what they can and cannot do right, because those decisions actually do end up making a difference, right, in terms of how much you're paying. And as we know, every penny saved is a penny earned here. So just going over that, what are you trying to instill in people throughout the seminar about the tax aspect of this? It is about, again, saving money, right?
It's absolutely about saving money and reducing the taxes that you've got to pay. I mean, the federal government needs money, and they're trying to extract as much money as possible to pay the bills for the government. And what we're trying to do is show them that planning will help reduce the taxes that you're going to pay, because you're going to get hit with Social Security and Medicare on your net income from your business at 15.3. And that's, first before you're even taxed for just your regular federal income tax rate. So it becomes very, very important to plan your expenses, to plan how you're doing this, make sure your bookkeeping is capturing every expense that's out there. And that's what we're kind of instilling in people, is that the penny saved, penny earned is going to start with reducing those taxes as well, and what things you can do as a business owner, to reduce those taxes and to lower that income so that what your net income is for the business is low enough that you can afford the taxes, and making sure that, as we said, is anything that can be pre-tax dollars spent before it gets taxed is there and deductible for the business. And we go through all the expenses that truckers can use in their business, and we go through them, pretty well in detail.
This is something I would assume, and I know you have conversations with people in the room about, what their particular situation is. But I imagine this is a conversation where if you look around the room, I'm sure you see a bunch of eyes get real big because this is something that makes people nervous. I mean, taxes. And then when you start talking about, hey, you can save a little bit of money here and a little bit of money there, I would assume there's a bit of nervousness about that kind of idea. What kind of conversations have you had with people there that attend about that particular feeling that they might have?
Well, people get amazed at how much being self-employed you could actually be taxed. And, if your net income is, let's say 100,000, and we're going to use some big round numbers here, and you get taxed 15.3% right off the top for Social Security and Medicare, you realize you're now paying $15,300 in self-employment taxes. And that scares people. And then you add to that the federal income tax rate on there that could be 15 or another 20%, on top of that after you get down to taxable federal income. So when we're talking about, reducing these things, people realize, hey, this becomes really, really important because, spending that $15,000 just Social Security and spending another, $10,000 or $15,000 on federal income tax becomes really costly, really weighty, but you don't realize it when you're a W-2 employee versus being out there as an independent contractor, self-employed owner-operator. And that's where we're trying to teach people, what is deductible, what isn't, so that we can save money. And one of the best things in doing this and coming to this seminar is networking after the fact, because I get a chance to sit, in the lobby or after the seminar and just have open conversations and be able to discuss every little thing that you can possibly think of that you didn't think of or were afraid to ask during the seminar. We can talk about it after the fact and sitting there in the lobby. We enjoy the networking, and we get a lot of people from OIDA. They're sitting there at times with us in the lobby talking as well. So come on out and join the seminar and pick our brain. That's what we're there for.
Yeah. And as I said off the top here, you do cover a lot of ground. And I think that is what is noteworthy about the seminar is what you said there. You do have the opportunity throughout and afterward and even beyond that to reach out and ask questions that are particular to your circumstance, which really does, help a lot of people out in a lot of ways. I want to talk, you mentioned bookkeeping too, and this kind of folds into what we're talking here, but you do go over common mistakes that people make when, keeping their books. What are some big takeaways there that you try to instill in people that are attending and some tips that you have for them too, again, to avoid those common mistakes that people do make out there?
Well, one, we tell them is to use us, the truckertaxtools.com, of course. But if you don't use us for bookkeeping, use somebody for bookkeeping, because your job is to be there on the road and get your job done. Our job is to help you find every expense out there. Use somebody that is knowledgeable about the trucking industry and is geared to the truckers themselves. But again, if you're going to do it yourself, is to kind of use the cheat sheet we give you as well to help you find every possible business deduction you can take for your business, and don't miss them, because it is costly mistakes when you're missing deductions out there that you should have as a owner-operator, as a trucker.
As we talk about all this, and we talk about those conversations that you have on the sidelines of the seminar, what are some of the more common questions, or I guess maybe even common concerns that you hear from people when it comes to all of this? Is it just that they feel overwhelmed, or, what kind of things do they relay to you mostly?
Very, very definitely overwhelmed, and getting a lot of information out of the seminar and being able to compartmentalize, everything you're learning. But then after the fact, when we're sitting there and talking maybe in the lobby over pizza or whatever, is, hey, what can I do when I buy this truck? Or, should I depreciate it fully this year, or should I take it over a period of time? Or somebody gives me some advice just to go out and buy something just so I can reduce my taxes. Questions like that become, overwhelming in the lobby, and being able to sit down and talk. We talk to people about, how they're going to set up their business as well, and give them some guidance of what we're looking for and the reasons we would use a certain entity versus another entity, LLC versus a corporation or an S corp, or just being a sole proprietor. And we'll give you the reasons why we would be sitting there looking at it. And we get into specifics because people get really concerned when they're getting out there and starting a business, and they've heard from fellow truckers, let's say, at the fuel pump, giving them their guidance or what they've done or what somebody else has told them. And, sometimes that fuel pump guidance isn't the best guidance in the world. You need some professional guidance, and you need professionals that you can actually rely on, whether it's, us here at Trucker Tax Tools or it's OOIDA. You've got people to fall back on and ask the questions, and you now know people personally to be able to call them and do it.
And as we kind of close things out here, Barry, there may be people listening to this who are on the fence. They're not sure if they want to come to this. It's not just you. Obviously, there are a lot of other presentations that go on at Truck to Success. But for someone who may be on the fence right now as they listen to us talk, what would you say to them about attending the seminar themselves?
I would say if you are thinking of getting out and running your own trucking business out there, this is the place to be. The depth of knowledge that OOIDA brings to truckers is very important to you in your business, because it's all about planning. And it's not just tax planning or planning for bookkeeping. It is complete business planning. And when you're there, you're going to hear from some of the greatest experts I've heard in the trucking industry with OOIDA and the foundation. And they're going to bring their years of experience, because a lot of them have been in the trucking business, their years of experience, and relate that to you and how you can use it in establishing your business and what you want to do. And you may even attend and decide, hey, trucking's not what I really want to do, being out there, being an owner-operator, because we've seen that happen as well. But it's better to get the knowledge than to go out there and guess what you're going to do and not be prepared and not plan. Anytime you don't plan, you're setting yourself up for failure. Come here and set yourself up for success, and use what OOIDA Truck to Success seminar and we bring to the table to help you plan for your future for success.
Well put there. Truck2success.com is a website, and truckertaxtools.com is your website. Barry, we appreciate it, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the time and look forward to meeting everybody at Truck to Success.
Our thanks once again to Barry Fowler. Truck to Success runs from October 22nd through the 24th in Blue Springs, Missouri. The registration deadline to attend in person is October 1st. The virtual registration deadline is October 21st. That website again for more information, truck2success.com. Stick around. Landline Now returns right after this short commercial break.
Truckdown.com. Whenever you have a breakdown, you need Truckdown.com. 24/7 access to 40,000 verified heavy-duty repair vendors nationwide. Truckdown verified, vendor qualified. Truckdown.com.
Firestone tires are for more of everything, with more durability for more miles and more confidence in your fleet. Firestone's tested tires help fleets save with value where it matters most. Learn more at bridgestonenationalfleet.com/4moremiles.
Dispatch, I picked up that load of steel, so I'm ready to roll.
Sounds good. Remember, we're getting paid by weight, so make sure to use a cat scale.
I wouldn't weigh anywhere else.
Forget misaccuracy when your truck on a cat scale.
It's the first of the month, and although there is not a new issue of Landline magazine out, it is the time every month when we traditionally take a look at some of the stories inside the cover. And here to give us a peek inside is magazine senior editor Mark Schremer. Mark, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Mark.
Let's kind of take a look here at one of the topics in the magazine that is one we talked about on the show quite a bit. That's predatory towing, and this is something that it doesn't affect a huge number of people, but boy, if you're the person affected, it is an awful, awful thing to encounter.
Yeah, and you know, our headline, and I kind of liked our headline on this, it's called Playing Roulette, and you know, you make a good point there. You know, most, I think, truck drivers, probably this isn't something they really think of very often, because if you're not, you know, involved in one of these incidents, it's never going to be anything you have to deal with. And obviously nobody knows when they're going to get into a crash, when they're going to get into an incident like this where they need a third party or non-consensual tow. And, you know, and obviously can give the background, kind of explain what we mean by that, you know, and what I was trying to outline with this story is you might have a truck driver, you know, maybe from California, and they're doing a, you know, load all the way to Florida, and somewhere along the way they get into some sort of crash, and law enforcement needs, you know, them removed off the road as quickly as possible. And so what they do is they go to a tow rotation list, and at that point, it's, you know, it's just different tow companies in that area that, you know, are basically linked to law enforcement, and whichever one is next on the list, that's who you get. The truck driver does not get to negotiate rates. They don't get to choose which tow company it is. And so basically they'll come and do their thing, and then they can charge whatever they want to charge. And these numbers, you know, $80,000 isn't uncommon, $100,000, $200,000 we've seen.
Incredible tow bills.
And this is why I'm saying with that headline, Playing Roulette, you know, if this happens to you, you know, you could be having a great year, great business, everything going well, and then one incident like that, you know, it could put you out of business. And I'm not trying to be, you know, I'm not trying to exaggerate or anything like that, but that's the reality. It really could put you out of business, one incident like that, because of these, you know, tow companies that are on the predatory end of it.
Well, and especially if they impound the truck, which does happen on a lot of these. So now you're facing this massive bill, and you can't make any money.
Yeah, and they might be holding your cargo hostage, holding your equipment hostage until the payment is made. And you know, there's so many of just extreme cases that we've heard about as we've been following this. One of the things in comments, a state trucking association filed comments that said that they had found out that one of their state members had a $202,000 towing bill. But what's really interesting about this is they said they did some research of their own, and they found out that the tow company that was charging them $202,000 actually contracted that out with another tow company to do the service. You know how much they paid them? $25,000.
Yeah.
So we've gone from $25,000 to $202,000. That is a nice return on investment
for basically making a phone call to a different company.
Yeah, and so that's what we're dealing with, you know. And that's not to take away from tow companies. They provide a real service. There's expense for you know, the equipment that they have to have. They're 24/7.
There's a lot of good ones out there that are very honest.
100%. And but when you're marking up from $25,000 to $202,000 and just kind of taking advantage of the insurance companies, taking advantage of the truck drivers out there on the road, you know, it's just not right. And so I guess the overall kind of message is this: even if you have never dealt with a tow company like this, has never seemed like a problem to you, this still is something that we all should be concerned about, focused about, file comments when you can, and make sure, that this problem kind of gets resolved. And luckily the DOT has been looking into it.
You mentioned that, and in fact, FMCSA had a meeting, kind of a listening session, I guess, about this issue. And you do cover that very thoroughly in the magazine, but I'm curious, what brought this to the attention of FMCSA in the first place? Because it's not a new issue.
Well, I mean, OIDA has been harping about this for years and years and years. And, I feel like the association has done a very good job of working with states. And a lot of them, used to not have any way that you could even challenge a tow. If you were charged $100,000 and they said you had 2 wreckers and, you knew they only brought 1 out there, there was still no way to even contest it. And the association's done a good job of, in a lot of states now, have at least some means to do it. But the association has brought attention to FMCSA and DOT as well. So I think they played a big role in bringing this issue. And like I said, not only the agency, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg even attended that first meeting and spoke about the problem. And again, kind of echoing some of the things that we said, that probably most tow companies out there are doing the job right, but there are bad actors. Anytime you have somebody in a vulnerable position, which is what you have truck drivers in this, there's going to be a small percentage that are going to try to take advantage of it. And that's what's happening. We need to close that loophole.
Yeah, and I was also encouraged in there, kind of talking about this meeting again, by a statement by Brian Stansbury, who's the deputy counsel at DOT. And he linked the issue to safety. And one of the things that's kind of bothered me over time with FMCSA is they kind of refuse to deal with anything they regard as a financial or economic issue because it's all about safety with them. Never mind that if someone doesn't have any money, they can't afford to pay to fix, say, their brakes.
Yeah, and also the one of the things that I'll give credit to the agency and DOT for starting to recognize in recent years is, they've showed out the research that shows the most experienced drivers out on the road, the ones that have been out there in the longest, are the safest drivers. And what's happening, like you bring up, ability to maintain your truck and maintain your equipment, but also it may just completely take you out of business if you're an owner-operator. And so now this safe 20-year driver is off the road because of something like this. And who are we replacing them with? Somebody who's never, somebody, an entry-level driver, 21, 22 years old, out on the road. And the stats are they're just more likely to not be as safe as the experienced driver that's just off the road. So it's definitely a safety issue. I'm glad to see that they are recognizing that, but we just need something with real teeth to actually do something about it.
Something else that struck me in this are some of the statements on this issue, very specific statements by Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. And first of all, he seemed to be making what I would regard at least as the right noises on this topic. But also, and tell me if this is your impression too, that he has taken more of a direct interest and a very specific interest in trucking issues that I think most DOT secretaries I can remember in my time covering the industry.
Yeah, and in my time, I'm trying to think. I think I've been here under, I guess 3 DOT secretaries. And yeah, I would agree with that as well. And he has spoken out on predatory lease purchase issues. He has spoke out on now this with predatory towing. And the great thing I'll say is, like I said, I'll give them a lot of credit for they're saying the right things, and they're doing the studies and they're doing the research and they're having the panels, but now we just need to get to that next step. So all the credit to them for recognizing the issue and saying there is an issue, but now we just need it actually fixed.
The first step of any 12-step program is admitting you have a problem.
100%.
Well, let's move on to just a couple of other things here. And the next on the list is something that I think is near and dear to a lot of people's hearts, which is the annual trucking convoys across the U.S. and Canada, benefiting Special Olympics. And, they used to call this the world's largest truck convoy.
Yeah.
And it seems like they're getting away from that a little bit as this continues. Are they just kind of dropping the name? Or
I'm not 100% sure on that. I think that I agree with you that that was something that I would seen for a long time, and it seems like maybe they're not using that as much. But I mean, I think the mission and the message is still the same regardless of how they are kind of dubbing it or marketing it. But truck drivers, as you're well aware, so good-hearted and wanting to help people. And I've been able to actually, sit in a truck that was going through one of these convoys and have a Special Olympics athlete riding along with it, and just the joy. From the athletes, joy from the drivers. The drivers are in some of these cases donating a big amount of money just to be one of the first trucks in line. And at the Joplin Truck Show, they do that, and just all of it is just such a great thing. And I've talked to in the past with Special Olympics organizers like the one out of Missouri that if it wasn't for these truck shows, these convoys and truck drivers, like they really rely on a big portion of their funding and things for events on that every year. And it's just so important and it's great. And these, they're all over the United States. September is kind of the big month, but you see some in August, you see some in October, but think of South Carolina, Illinois, Iowa, South Dakota, all over the place. There's going to be these. And, if you have an opportunity to take part in one of them, I strongly recommend it.
Yeah, one ironic thing here that I noted, you talk about all the different convoys across the country, across Canada, but Florida, where the whole thing started, doesn't have a convoy anymore. At least I haven't seen any information on one.
Yeah, I haven't either. And, it's weird how some of those things go sometime. And so if you're in Florida and you have the ability to get one started again, I certainly would encourage it. But yeah, these, like I said, to the people that are taking part in it or who have at any point deserve a lot of credit. You're helping a lot of kids. Like I said, I'll never forget the smile on the face of the athlete that I saw the day that I got to ride in the convoy, and he had his medals on, and there was a crowd there, and he was just beaming with pride. It was an amazing thing to see.
Absolutely wonderful. And, of course, Ontario and Canada and Wisconsin here in the States, both celebrating their 20th anniversary convoys this year. So, folks, keep an eye out and, of course, take a look inside the magazine, and you can see when some of these are taking place. We got a little bit of time left, and there is one other thing that I know you wanted to get to, and that is a regular feature that's been in there for years and years, which is On the Road, OOIDA On the Road, which is following the spirit of the American trucker. A little bit different now than what it's been in the past.
Yeah, in recent issues, what we've decided to do, and Marty Ellis is the driver of the Spirit, and he goes, stops at truck stops all over across the United States, and is meeting with members. And we thought, this is a great opportunity. Marty was sending us photos back of some of the members, and so we're using this space in the magazine to kind of feature some of the people that have came on the truck to talk with Marty and talk about issues, talk about, tell their stories, whether they've driven for 40 years or whether they're on their second year driving. But anyways, we like to kind of use that as an opportunity to share their photo and, maybe a few paragraphs about, their life as a trucker and what what OIDA means to them.
Fantastic. Well, we're out of time, Mark, but thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
I've been talking with Landline Magazine Senior Editor Mark Schremer, and if you'd like to subscribe to the magazine, go to landline.media, and in the upper right corner, click on subscribe. I'm Mark Rettig, and this is Landline Now.
Ready to make more money? Use a better load board. For a limited time, get 50% off Truck Stop Load Board Pro. Just go to truckstop.com/go and enter promo code READY2024 when you purchase Loadboard Pro.
Are you tired of the IRS following you around like a dark cloud? Call 888-557-4020 and get your life back.
If you're running ultra-low sulfur diesel in your vehicle, make sure you are prepared and protected all winter long with Howes Diesel Treat, the #1 anti-gel product in North America from the 100-plus year trusted brand Howes Products.
Since you started, what you've loved about trucking is the freedom. Heading out on your favorite route, a good driving song, and thinking about truck insurance. Well, maybe not that last one. That's why we're here. At OOIDA, we have a full range of truck insurance products, expert advice, and great customer service, helping you get the right coverage for your operation. Go to OOIDA.com, because your job is to drive. Our job is to help with everything else.
Welcome back to Landline Now. In the event you've been living under a rock until recently, it's an election year, and that means a number of transportation-related questions will be on the ballot in a couple of months. We're going to run through a few of them right now with our in-house state legislative expert, Keith Goebel. Keith is a state legislative editor of Landline Magazine, and he joins us here in Studio A now. Keith, how you doing?
Scott, it may be time to begrudgingly emerge from that rock. As far as elections go.
Hey, you know, if you're comfortable under your rock and you like your rock, stay there. You know, I'm good with that. It's an election year. It's crazy out there.
But we want people to make sure they have their voice heard.
If you want to be informed, listen up for the next 8 or so minutes.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about some transportation questions that always, hopefully for our listeners out there, they will find relevant to what they're doing.
Well, let's start there. Let's start with the Emerald City, the City of Flowers, Queen City. Just a few of Seattle's many nicknames. Residents won't be voting on a nickname in November, but they will be voting on whether they want to renew a local transportation levy. What can you tell us there, Keith?
Yeah, a local transportation levy sounds pretty quaint, kind of almost cute, but no, it can be pretty significant, at least for those folks who are the focus of this particular pursuit in Seattle. While, yes, it's, they've had a transportation levy. They've had one going back to 2006, one that they've had to renew, and they're trying to renew it for the third time. Worth noting that the amount and the duration it's raising significantly more than it did going back almost 20 years. You know, the thought being that they would be able to, over the course of the next 8 years, if an extension is approved, they'd be able to have $1.5 billion as a result of this levy. So,
that's a lot of money.
As you would think in a place like Seattle, that hopefully would be able to get a lot done or improve the delays, congestion, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and from what I read on your piece on landline.media, the city there, the city of Fraser, I don't know, but it does seem like it has quite a few problems that need addressing there.
Yeah, you know, and the focus here, I talked about it's going to be affecting folks. Hey, if you're just traveling through, you're not a Seattle resident, you're going to benefit from this without really having to pay anymore. The focus here is on getting property tax owners. Whether you are a renter or you own a business or you own a home, you would be tapped to cover the additional cost. I think the estimate that the city has provided is if you're a median household there in Seattle, you'd be paying an extra $275 a year for your property tax for the next 9 years. Now, I know, like for you and I, we're both Jackson County, Missouri residents, which includes the city of Kansas City.
Yeah.
Our taxes are much higher than pretty much every other county in the state. I would have to feel that it's probably similar in Seattle. Another the $275 is going to be significant for everyone, but as I would think maybe in that metro area could be even more difficult for some folks to imagine stomaching, at the same time acknowledging that they need to improve their transportation options there. But yeah, it will definitely be interesting to see if they, again, for the third time, approve a transportation levy.
Let's move on to Music City here, otherwise known as Nashville. Another ballot initiative dedicated to transportation funding. How's this one look compared to the one we just talked about in Seattle?
Well, one of the differences between Nashville and Seattle being that Nashville does not have a specific transportation tax, which, as the mayor there in Nashville has pointed out, he is behind this pursuit to get the question on the ballot, has pointed out that Nashville is one of only 4 of the top 50 major American cities that do not have dedicated funding for transportation improvements. Now, the other thing that is distinguishing in being one of, only a handful of cities that don't have their dedicated funding for transportation is that makes them ineligible to receive federal funding to go along with that. A lot of times if we're talking about efforts to raise revenue for transportation funding, there's a cost that a state or a county or a city will have, but the thought being that they're also going to be relying on getting some money from the feds as a match to help cover those costs. And they don't have that option in Nashville. So if voters approve this $3.1 billion transportation funding plan that would include a half-cent sales tax, they would also get the additional benefit of having federal funds being made available to help them get a lot of work that they've identified that they need there in Nashville.
Yeah, also interesting to point out that I guess they had a similar ballot question, 6 years ago, that voters basically said no thanks. They passed on it. We'll see if it changes this time. But that's interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, obviously things Nashville hasn't gotten any smaller as far as population goes. I mean, all we've heard about, and I myself traveled through Nashville a couple of occasions this summer. Had the misfortune of going through during rush hour on one occasion, and that was awful. So yes, anything that they could do. Hey, if the voters there are willing to approve that half-cent sales tax, which would apply to tourists as well. We're not talking about a property tax.
Sure.
I mean, this half-cent sales tax being touted as being something that they would be able to rely on tourists to definitely help pay a portion of that. But yeah, a lot of work that would be included in this plan that has been identified. Nothing like no major projects, but just putting the money for a lot of different purposes, whether it be transit, roads, putting it for bridges and roads, improving intersections, traffic light timing, that sort of thing. Just trying to disperse it pretty much to cover all the bases there for transportation.
Let's end our trip around the U.S. in Colorado. We've got 2 cities there asking voters to give a final verdict on a sales tax extension for transportation work. Let's start with, I looked this one up as well, Little London, as it's known to some, Colorado Springs for everybody else. What are they doing there?
Colorado Springs,
London.
Another area I had the fortune of being able to visit this summer. Believe me, I have, and my pocketbook reflects that.
Yes,
but yeah, they've had a tax, a sales tax for transportation on the books here for almost a decade. What they're wanting to do is that tax is about ready to sunset. It'll sunset next year, at the end of next year. So on the 2024 presidential ballot, everybody's going to be at voting in theory. So they put this question on the ballot asking voters whether to extend that sales tax for another 10 years. And with that, they're saying about 900 lane miles of work that they would be able to do there in the city. And tax increases are the pursuit of this fall for transportation.
And real quick here, the Western White House, another one I looked up here, as it's known thanks to former President Teddy Roosevelt, Glenwood Springs.
Okay.
What's going on there?
Makes some sense there.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, again, they have an existing tax. It's scheduled to sunset here in another year or so. What they're wanting to do is have voters go ahead and hopefully vote to extend the tax collection for another 20 years. And in addition to, I pointed out that they've got an existing tax, and it's an existing half-cent tax. What they're wanting to do is extend it for another 2 decades and double it to that full cent so they can get even more work done over that time.
Lots going on out there, Keith, especially with it being election year. We know you'll keep us updated on these stories and any others that come down the pike here over the weeks and months to come. I hope you're getting some sleep. It's a busy time.
Yeah, it is, but it's fun, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, lots of fun. Keith, we appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And that's our show. We thank you for listening. We'll catch you right back here tomorrow with another new show with all the latest from the trucking industry. Until then, take care.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
Control your toll costs and eliminate tolling headaches with Prepass Tolls. Prepass Tolls means toll volume discounts. Just one invoice for all tolls and fewer violations. Call 877-878-5970 or go to prepass.com.
I'm a dad,
a son,
a husband,
wife,
I'm a writer,
photographer.
I farm. I'm a veteran. I love old cars, fishing,
my kids,
chrome, and I am a professional truck driver.
And together we are OOIDA.
OOIDA was founded by truckers to stand up and speak on behalf of truckers. We've done that by combining the individual voices of our members into a single, powerful voice. Protecting your interests, defending your rights.
Join us!
Make your voice heard. Join OOIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association. Call 1-800-444-5791 or visit OOIDA.com.